The alarm goes off at 6 a.m. You said it. You meant it. And yet, before your eyes are even open, your hand is already moving. And the next thing you're aware of is it's 7:43, 3 alarms later, and you've done it again. And it's not just the alarm, it's the morning itself. That thick, underwater feeling that doesn't lift for 2 hours. The way other people just exist in the morning, drinking coffee, responding to emails, holding actual conversations, while you're still somewhere between asleep and aware, waiting for your brain to arrive. You've tried everything. Earlier bedtimes, blackout curtains, cold showers, apps that force you to solve a math problem before you can snooze. And every single morning, without fail, your body does the same thing, pulls you back down, says, "Not yet." Somewhere underneath all of it is this quiet, persistent belief that you are just broken, that other people have something you don't. Discipline, willpower, something. Here's what nobody tells you. You were never the problem. And what I'm about to explain will completely change how you see yourself every time that alarm goes off. Let's start with the other side, because there's an entire culture built around the 5 a.m. alarm. The self-help world loves a morning person, miracle mornings, the 5 a.m. club, CEOs who are already on their second workout before most people have hit snooze for the first time. Tim Cook is up at 3:45 a.m., and the message, repeated loudly enough and long enough, becomes very clear. Early rising is discipline. It's ambition. It's the mark of someone serious about their life. And so the morning person has been quietly assigned a set of virtues: focus, productivity, drive, while the person who can't get up has, by implication, been assigned the opposite. For decades, the world has run on a single assumption, that every brain wakes up on roughly the same schedule, and anyone who falls outside it is simply choosing not to try hard enough. Schools at 7:30 a.m., offices at 8. The alarm becomes a moral test, and if you keep failing it, the conclusion seems obvious. But here's where it gets interesting, because that entire framework rests on one assumption that biology has since dismantled completely. The term is chronotype. Your chronotype is your body's natural biological preference for when to sleep and when to wake. And it's not a habit. It's not something you developed from staying up late in college. It's a rhythm built into your genetics before you were born. Researchers have identified a gene called PER3, one of the core genes that regulate your internal clock. Specific variants in PER3 determine, at a molecular level, whether your body naturally wants to sleep and wake early, late, or somewhere in between. This is not metaphor. This is clockwork, written into your DNA. Chronotypes sit on a spectrum. At one end, morning larks, whose bodies peak early and wind down by evening. At the other, night owls, whose entire biological rhythm runs later. Peak alertness in the evening, deep sleep delayed until the small hours. A brain that, at 6 a.m., is still running a biological night. Stay with me, because this is where it gets personal. Chronobiologist Till Roenberg coined a phrase for what happens when a night owl lives by a morning person's schedule: social jet lag. The idea is this: if your body's natural wake time is 9 a.m. and your alarm goes off at 6 a.m., you are effectively flying from London to New York every single day, not because of a flight, because of a permanent collision between your biology and the world's schedule. And that misalignment isn't just uncomfortable. Research links chronic social jet lag to elevated cortisol, impaired cognitive function, and disrupted metabolic health. Your body isn't simply tired, it is running under daily biological duress. The scale of this matters. In a study drawing on data from over 55,000 participants, Roenberg and his team at Ludwig Maximilian University found that approximately 25 to 30% of people have a definite late chronotype, a biology that is genuinely calibrated for a later sleep-wake cycle. That study was published in 2007, and the numbers have held up consistently ever since. That's not a fringe minority. That's roughly 1 in 4 people, walking through every morning in a state of biological misalignment. Not because they lack discipline, because the clock they were handed doesn't match the clock on the wall. So let's say it plainly. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're not someone who has failed to develop basic adult discipline. You are an evening chronotype, and your brain's peak cognitive window runs later than the one modern life was designed around. Franz Kafka wrote almost exclusively between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Winston Churchill worked from bed until noon and considered mornings a personal enemy. Marcel Proust wrote through the night and slept through the morning for his entire adult life. Charles Darwin described his clearest thinking as happening long after the household went quiet. These were not people who failed to optimize their mornings. They were people who found their actual window and worked inside it. And this is the part nobody talks about. Evening chronotypes consistently score higher on measures of creative thinking, abstract reasoning, and divergent problem solving. Not because being a night owl makes you smarter, but because your cognitive peak is happening in a different window. The brain isn't behind schedule, it's on its own. There's an old idea that the early bird gets the worm, but that saying was written by a morning person. Not every mind was built for the 6 a.m. hour. Some brains come alive when the house goes quiet, do their clearest thinking in the hours most people have already written off, and have spent a lifetime being quietly told that something is wrong with them. Not because something went wrong, but because something went differently. The world built its schedule around one chronotype and called it discipline. But a clock isn't broken because it keeps a different time. It's just keeping its own. If this resonated, if you've spent years feeling like you were losing a battle with your own alarm, hit subscribe. There are a lot more videos here about the way your actual brain works, not the way you were told it should. And if this hit home, you'll want to know why some people feel emotions far more deeply than others, and why that sensitivity might be your most underrated advantage. That video is right here.